available online, so we'll get started. And let's go ahead and I know with the passing of Beth Adams, Brother Ray Adams was very influential in my life when I was at Bible college, and I was a member there at Cherry Street Baptist Church as well. So let's go ahead, let's open up with a word of prayer. And Tim McClendon, would you open us up in a word of prayer?
Yeah, Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this opportunity to sort of share ideas for your work, and we just pray for our children and our youth. We just pray that some of these ideas will we can take back to our churches and really, minister and not just watch kids. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen. Thank you so much. Well, this is our children's ministries and youth ministries, so welcome. I'm glad somebody showed up. I wasn't sure, and I'm still outweighed by ladies, and so I am in my household, so I know to tiptoe gingerly as I say things, okay? And probably saying that already put me in trouble, so, right? And I am blessed and fortunate to have one of the most influential people in my life, but Miss Shuggy Lamb. She's seen me raised, and she probably has stories, so you guys can catch up. She babysat me as a little one, so I'm thankful. Yeah, and she tolerated me for a couple years working for them as a youth pastor there. So I've been in youth ministry, been involved for many years. My wife and I, Melissa, even in the early days of Bible Baptist Church of Wilmington, and one of those that was in that youth department, her name's Liza McCoy now. She was a young teenager then, and her husband, Casey, is our children's minister. So irony as that goes, and that makes me feel very old. So, but there's others in there as well, and so thankful for them and their ministry. I am not currently a youth pastor or a children's pastor, but as I've been able to kind of step back a little bit and see Brother Casey and Aaron's next door in the assimilation and outreach, these men have been very pivotal in these last few months. And so you guys and ladies have probably had your hands in so many different areas during the last 7 months of COVID-19. So what we're trying to share today is just some of those ideas, because the reality is we're not going back, are we? There's an element, everything that we do as churches, as youth departments, as missions, as we've seen that, even here in Brother Burkholder just a moment ago, some elements change a little bit with every flip of society, doesn't it? So we want to just kind of go over that. And I want you to be thinking, what is it that you guys had done that you had to kind of change your thought process there? So it's been a whirlwind the last 7 months. We've probably had those questions of, do we really have to close our doors, right? Many of us we shut our doors depending on what state you're in. Ohio, we was blessed. We wasn't forced to, but many of us chose to navigate through. Can the government really even do that, right? It's just a virus. To mask or not to mask. I even find myself, we walked into the hotel checking in. Do I wear it? Do I not wear it? Whatever the situation, right? A lot of questions that it's brought. Good grief, people, were you not washing your hands to begin with, right? I've had that phrase. And so we've learned a lot, new cleaning practices throughout our facilities. We've learned new phrases, and I'm tired of, but social distancing. And as you all had done your social distancing, the church had placed it. You guys brought some together because you wanted to sit by each other. So thank you for not completely social distancing. I don't think that's the job and the task of our church. But there's new policies for our nurseries, new policies in our children's, having to, at Wilmington, and I can only speak for Wilmington during these times, but we've had our teachers, those volunteers that may not be teaching, but to wear a mask a little bit with those parents, those children, because there is a reality that there is a bit of a fear, it seems like, in that generation that's raising kids even right now. So that's not this discussion, but that's just the reality of where we're at. We've learned a lot of things through the past 7 months. Many of our churches have gone from almost zero online presence to 100% online presence. Many of us, and I can speak for Wilmington, I can speak for Hillsborough, but we all have websites. So we didn't have zero online presence. We had Facebook pages, but we wasn't putting every message. We're not putting every little tidbit of information. Our children's programs went online, and Casey is going to help me out here after a few moments and kind of discuss that process and why we decided what we decided. Some of it was just feeling it through, wasn't it, Casey? There was no book as to say. So we hope with that, I've just put some thoughts together of maybe some thought processes in the future, or what in the world we do when it happens again. Now we can be prepared, because I think we did learn there's many takeaways that we've been able to pull from the last 7 months. So let me ask this question: how many of your churches shut completely down? Anybody? We were there. We had our online services. How many that you opened up partially? Maybe you didn't fully shut down, but partially, okay? How many began streaming for the very first time? Most, about half in this room. Good. So, how many of you are now tech gurus? Anybody become tech gurus? I am impressed, okay? Those of the younger generation, and probably had a little bit of an edge because you're already there. My kids have helped me. I did not realize I was a Snapchat sensation, and I'm going to tell on myself a little bit. When I was at Hillsboro, now I allowed them to use their cell phones a little bit, okay? Because I'd say, hey, Google such and such, because I wanted to teach them how to use the technology with what they're growing up with. I did not realize that all the little filters and whatever, that I had ears and whatever, and there's one particular student, she, every week, and Melissa's like, you need to see this. So I've become a Snapchat sensation, and I don't even have Snapchat to this day. But I also know that they can be trained to use it according to the day and age that they're in. I believe Paul done the same thing when he was in prison, and so when he's writing these letters. And so we'll get to digging into some of those. Let me share some stats with you. And I've got my PowerPoint. Let's see if it's going to work. The remote's a little slow. But in a recent survey of Barna's pastoral panel, over 1 in 3 Protestant pastors says their church hasn't changed its approach to youth, being 35%, children 37%, and ministry since COVID-19 had began. I want to look specifically at these youth numbers. Looking specifically at children's ministry, 1 in 3 churches, about 34%, now offers digital resources for this age group to use at home. And 1/4 increased their social media presence by 26%, or offered online Bible classes or Sunday school for this age group. How many of you had any of your Sunday school prior to COVID-19? How many now? All right, so I'd seen some of Hillsboro's because I got some good friends in those adult ministries, so I was able to glean from those as well. For the youth ministry, one-on-one engagement through phone calls, texts, or video chats has been embraced, with 34% of churches having made this change. 1 in 3 pastors, of about 31%, also reports that their church offers midweek gatherings for this age group. 1 in 4 churches has set up online Bible classes or Sunday school for youth, about 26%, and increased their social media presence by 25%. How many of you have used Zoom? You are now the Zoom masters, is what we're saying. Zoom, I had never been a part of. I had some different levels throughout this, but what we have found, Aaron Fawcett was holding Bible studies. We'll get into some of those things that he had done, but he was doing his midweek Bible studies, and they would start that at 6 o'clock on a Wednesday night, and then that would lead into our Wednesday night Bible study at 7 o'clock, with pastor being, online. Everything was 100% online. Some of those elements Aaron had kept in place. With using that method of the text and the communicating, whether it's even Snapchat and different things, I want to highlight something that maybe you have not thought of. We had thought about kind of going through, but your youth communication policy. Making sure that your volunteers are not just going out on their own, because these are minors, remember. So make sure, that's just a thought that I just jotted that down this morning that I didn't have a part of my notes, but very much vital because of the day and age that we're in. We know the presence that is online and the dangers that do come with that. In all cases, COVID-19 should have increased our one-on-one engagement, shouldn't it? It should have been an eye-opener, because if youth pastors and children's pastors, and I would say especially with youth pastors, that if that one-on-one engagement prior to COVID-19 was almost non-existent, that probably exposed that. So my encouragement is, hey, it's a wake-up call for youth pastors. Children's pastors might be a little bit more difficult with the younger ones, but that opens up avenues of communication with mom and dad. The biggest goal in youth ministry is equipping mom and dad along that journey while we're trying to equip the students, trying to equip them as well. From this point on, it should have brought the awareness or the lack of communication. One of the statements that we've probably found ourselves saying, along with social distancing, the new normal. Yeah. We found it, we hate that phrase, don't we? Yes. But there is some elements of that. And with doing children's ministry and youth work, we've got to embrace some elements of that. One of my good friends back here, Everett Miller, is our educational director. And one of the things that I admire about Everett is he is 72. Yes. Yeah, 72 years old. But the one thing that I have gleaned from Everett, he's been involved for many years with our children. That education, that's from the youngest to the oldest. Everett understands and that importance of embracing where we're at in society. Everett has done some of the videos, and he did a walkthrough video of, this was a couple years ago, of all of our different Sunday school classes and everything. And you know what? Most of it is you see young guys and young ladies doing those. Everett was the star of that video, and it was appropriate. It was what was needed. But Everett has always understood that we have to embrace some elements of a new normal. And I don't like that phrase either. But we can't be comfortable. I don't think we're called to sit back and remain comfortable. I believe that if we're called into leadership as pastors, youth pastors, children's pastors, we should embrace some of that. Do we really believe this mentality of fear is going to just disappear? We've seen in the last 20 years the need for even wearing the seatbelt, right? It's laws in most of our churches. When I was a child, we didn't have to be put in a car seat. I'm one of 3 brothers, and my youngest one, the only reason mom had the car seat was for the convenience to just hold him still while she's trying to drive the car. That was back in the 70s and 80s. Now that is a part of, you can be pulled over, right, in some states for not even wearing the seatbelt. So I'm not saying that these are musts. I'm just saying that we really need to pay attention to what's going on within our society. As we do get closer to the return of Christ, the world around us is just going to get more chaotic. We know that in the book of Revelations as we read prophecy, and what's amazing is that how much is being fulfilled. And one of the things that a pastor friend of mine said, we never knew what it was going to look like. And when it starts unfolding itself, now we see it more prevalent. So, and if we are called by God into his ministry, we are not to return to a default setting. And I think that we all have a default setting of, let's get back, let's be comfortable, right? So I want to look at Philippians chapter 3, verses 12 through 14, very familiar portions of Scripture. Not as though I had already attained, either were already perfect, but I follow after, if that I may apprehend that for which also I can apprehend of Christ Jesus. Brethren, I count not myself to have apprehended, but this one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind, and reaching forth unto those things which are before. I press toward the mark for the prize of the high calling of God in Christ Jesus. Reaching forth. We don't ever become complacent, do we? So, I've got an acronym here. It's BRO. Now, the teens like to say bro. I couldn't find how to do the U and the H, and so I did BRO. So if you want to follow along and take notes there. But it's balance is our first one. Balance. I'm not saying to set aside everything that we've done, door-to-door visitation. That's always that's part of our DNA, isn't it? But one of the things that the challenges that we have is I don't even show up to my own parents' house without shooting a text. Are you home? Do you care if I stop by? So we've got to embrace that. The biggest thing that we've discovered in the last few months as a church is setting the appointment. So with our kids, there is also setting that appointment. And we can do that through these cell phones and by any means necessary. Set the appointment with mom and dad. So it's finding that balance. But it's also not just reaching forward, but Hebrews 10:23 says, let us hold fast the profession of our faith without wavering, for he is faithful that promised. Hold fast, hold firm. Don't let that waver. So we reach forth, and it's finding that balance between the two, isn't it? Because as we find out, we can become overwhelmed too much with technology, can't we? It becomes obsessive. It becomes, what's the main goal? And I don't want to get ahead of myself. But the biggest goal, what we've seen in the last 7 months, is the return, hasn't it? Trying to get back to church, open up the doors. Now our goal, we find ourselves, is keeping the doors open. So Philippians chapter 3, verses 12 through 14, not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together as the manner of some is, but exhorting one another, and so much the more as ye see the day approaching. So our goal is to get back into church. I've got the wrong, that's Hebrews 10:25. He should have been 2 verses down. I don't know how that one slipped in there, but anyway, I'm not perfect. I'm going to show some things with Casey. Let's get going. The idea is to keep them connected. Right now, some points here to talk through it.
Listen, we really need to stick together during this different and difficult time. All right, none of us are used to this, but we need to all continue to grow in our faith, no matter what's going on around us. That's the purpose of our BBC Kids Faith Factory, is to see kids come to know, love, and trust Jesus as their Savior. It doesn't matter what's going on around us, that's still the purpose, even while we're on Corona break. So we need to stick together. Get away, Pastor. I'm live on the internet. I'm not joking. Here comes Pastor. He wants to be live on the internet.
Hi, guys.
He's not getting enough time on Sundays and Wednesdays, so he has to steal my time. Get out of here. All right. I'm going to challenge you kids to continue to grow closer to Jesus. Just because we can't come into the church doesn't mean we can't have church. The church is not the building. The people are the church. All right. I've got one more thing, and then I've got to go. Listen real close, kids. During the rest of Corona break, I want you to pray. Pray every day. Pray in the morning. Pray when something's going bad. Pray when stuff's going good. But pray. You need to read your Bible. Right now, your personal growth, your personal relationship is really yours. You can't come here and have us help you with it. So you need to take ownership of your relationship with Jesus. You need to pray and you need to read your Bible. I love you guys all so much. Kids, I miss you already. I know it's only been one Wednesday that we haven't been together, but I really miss you. Make sure this weekend on Sunday at 10:30 in the morning and at 6 o'clock at night, Pastor Dixon's message will be live on Facebook. So kids, sit down with your parents. Act like you would act in church. Okay, so everybody sits on the couch together. No talking, no making goofy noises. Don't be eating a bag of chips and drinking a Mountain Dew. You're at church for that little bit of time while Pastor Josh is preaching. So please sit quietly and listen and let the Lord speak to your heart during that time.
Hi, kids! I'm Casey. Mr. Casey asked me to come and share my talent with you kids, so I hope you enjoy this. I have a very long list of special talents that the Lord has given me. I just wanted to share 2 of those with you today. The first is juggling.
Hey kids, it's Casey Buckets here. Mr. Casey, by the way, it's KC like K-C, not C-A-S-C-Y. Totally different than Mr. Casey. Mr. Casey asked me to help out with the Faith Factory Talent Show, so I'm here to show you guys some trick shots. Hope you enjoy.
Hello, kids. My name is Casey LaPierre Down. And Mr. Casey asked me to come and share some dog training expertise. I'm a world-renowned dog trainer. And I hope you enjoy the tricks. Now, we're going to get into the kitchen. I'm going to introduce my beautiful, special guest that's going to help me today. And we're going to have some fun making a nice, healthy snack. All right, kids, here we are. We're back in the kitchen. I have the beautiful Miss Liza here with us.
Miss you all.
Yes, we miss you guys so much.
Okay,
all right.
So we have our hands washed, we have our aprons on. Here we go. So we have a cup of oats in the bowl.
Can I put the second
Yes,
cup in?
put the second cup in. Oh my goodness. Okay. Quite dramatic, but that was good. Okay. Now we need 1 cup of peanut butter.
Peanut butter.
Here you go.
Does this come from cows?
Here, come on.
What are we doing?
It takes so long to do anything.
How many scoops?
Kids, feel bad. Fishies. What should we do? What? I forgot it's Wednesday. I need to get ready for Awana. Come on, kids, help me. Let's go. Come on, kids. This is what I do every Wednesday. Now, this week, you have a chance to help me. We've got to get Awana ready. We've got to change every classroom sign and get every Awana book. I time myself. I'm getting better every week. As you know, Awana is divided up into 3 parts. Classroom time, which we already just got ready, game time, and council time. So, even though you're not here with me, I thought I could still play some games. And a light unto my path. I will hide its words in my heart, that I might not sin against God. All right, kids, good job. Thank you very much. You may be seated. Now it's time for one of the most exciting parts of council time, other than when we read from the Bible. But it's time to see if anybody brought a bringer or a visitor. So, if you know you're a sinner, if you believe that your sin will separate you from a holy God, and you believe that Jesus is God's own Son, that He died on the cross for your sin, yours, and mine, the whole world. If you believe that, and you pray, and you ask Jesus to take away your sins and to come into your heart and to live with you forever and ever and ever, the Bible is absolutely clear that as soon as we believe that and pray, it happens. And we are a child of God, and we will know for sure that we will spend all eternity in heaven with Jesus.
Everything is a song. Everything is cool. Everything is a song.
I hope those are just some small elements that was put into place. We had no idea. Sorry that video started as quick as it did, because I was trying to talk up, but to get to that point. The idea is that to stay connected through this time. It was never to replace. And I think that we could say that from a standpoint from every pastor. The idea was never to go to church online. And what we have found as a church staff now has been that there are those that really like at-home church. I've visited on some of those, and they said, we're not afraid of anything. We just really like it. And so that's a dangerous place. So it's trying to find that balance of staying connected but not letting them get too comfortable with that. Some of the things, and I'd ask Casey, we're going to talk through some of these, and I want his perspective, because you guys probably were doing the same things. Maybe if someone didn't. These are just ideas. No one has a set formula for this. None of us can say in this room that we had it figured out, because there was more fails I think, than there was anything that was successful. But we did learn some things on how to approach in this fashion. We'll go through some of those. And Casey, just give us an idea of the thought process, because I know he said something right from the very beginning, and he regrets saying. What was that statement, Casey?
Right when it all first started, I had never had Facebook. I'd never been on Facebook. I'd never done videos, and I said I was going to do a video every day. That the kids weren't going to school, they weren't able to come to church, they weren't able to leave the house, so I was going to do a video every day. And one of our secretaries said, "Are you sure every day?" And I said, "Well, yeah, they're going to need it. They're going to be bored." No way, that's impossible. Video every single day. I quickly learned that 3 good videos a week would be way better than 7 sloppy, horrible videos, and it's not as easy as just making a video. I mean, like the very first one was live, so that was just sitting at a desk, so I thought, this is simple, but to do all those other things, and technology is not my specialty, so it was, my wife and I we would get frustrated. Everybody was talking about how relaxed the quarantine was and everything, so chill, and just watching movies all day, and I'm like, it's taking me 20 hours to make a 20-minute video, but the technology was, thankfully we have several people at our church that were very helpful, but I don't know, it was hard to find a balance between, they're kids, so if they're gonna sit down and watch something, I can't just do a Bible lesson. You guys probably know that if you're with kids. But so to try to find a balance between being goofy and entertaining, and then also, every video that I did a devotion, which I tried to have like a 5-minute devotion. Once you get talking, they were usually a little bit longer, but I tried to do something goofy or silly every time, and then like a 5 or 10 minute devotion or Bible study each time. And I have no clue where the ideas came from, other than the Lord, maybe, I don't know. Maybe it wasn't the Lord, but most days I had no clue. I knew what Bible study or lesson I was going to do, but as far as what goofy thing I was going to do, I had no clue. A lot of that was just spur of the moment. I got to do something. Let's just try to be silly and goofy, and I don't like watching it over again. But,
You're welcome.
but definitely, I thought when Justin started talking, right now for children's ministry, we're not doing anything online. We created our own Faith Factory, is what we call our children's ministry Facebook page, and that's where all these videos were posted on the children's Facebook page. And right now we're not doing anything, which I don't know if is a good or bad thing. Honestly, Justin just said it. I didn't want to give them a reason to not come to church. So I didn't want to, I had thought about recording our junior church and our Awana devotions and putting them on that Facebook page, but I'm ready for the kids to come back.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to give them a reason or an excuse to stay home.
Yeah.
As Justin said, some of them gotten comfortable, and that he hit this too. That generation, at least at our church, the young parents with kids, for whatever reason, seems to be one of the generations or categories that are the most scared by this. So
Yeah. So we learned a lot through that. With that, I know you guys have learned a lot as well. Is there anybody, just share anything, what you guys were doing during this time, anything? Yes.
My daughter had gotten home one day and she said, "Mom, somebody egged my house." And I went like, "What? Why would they do that?" She's got a nice house, she's in a, and she goes, "No, really, it's cool." She said, they took an Easter egg, and this was at Easter time. This was before we got our kids back, but it took an Easter egg and wrote on it, there are 12 hidden eggs in your yard.
Yeah.
And we put as many pieces of candy as per child that was in the house. So like there's 3 kids, we put 3 pieces of candy in each one and hid them around the house.
Yeah.
And I knocked on the door, put a bag, had their Sunday school lesson in it, had a couple like little fun treats and stuff like that. And that's how we started out. And then 2 weeks later we did it again. And again, it wasn't Easter eggs,
Yeah.
we just had, put those kids were waiting at the door. We're a
Wow.
smaller church, I understand that too, but we went actually to their homes, did not go in, but just that
Yeah.
wave and the high and the idea that the kids knew that we were there, they cared. And we were running probably about 15 at that time. We're up to 23 kids in church now.
Wow.
And they brought others.
Praise the Lord.
It's just, but it was letting them know that they were important. In return, that let the parents know that those kids were important. And we've had some parents coming out that
Yeah.
normally didn't come out before. So it's just, like I said, little things like that. That, again, we're a smaller church, we could do that. It was made, but all of our kids are back and more.
Interaction is the key.
It just
No matter
was
what we're
fantastic.
doing, interaction.
The thing I want to say is that Walt and Susan did that. They're a smaller church, they don't have staff to do it. It's what they did.
So we might not have all the means. We've been blessed in our situation. Casey got some ideas. That is the one element, that there is people within your church that's way better than most of us that's ever on staff, on any staff as well. So tap into those.
Yeah.
They got some really good, there's elementary teachers that are fascinating because they've got that creativeness. We don't always have it. I know Casey, he's not that interesting. He really isn't, that's what you've seen. Anybody else? I'm pestering, that's okay. I'll pay later. Anybody else? Yes.
We did Facebook Live and did a kids corner
Yeah.
and took some Sunday school lessons, had two of my best teachers teach it. Plus we did a regular Bible story. We did it 8 weeks straight. We did a regular Sunday school story, then we did a missionary story. And I did the foot pages from child evangelism.
Yeah.
Such colorful, big pictures. And we got really good. We took it off, and now I hear you talking and writing notes that maybe we should put it back on, but maybe we shouldn't. So, but we started Sunday school 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
Our numbers are down, like the younger classes.
Yeah.
They just, those millennials
Yeah.
and Z generations, they don't want to bring, I don't understand it, but it's okay.
We don't either.
Yeah.
Believe me, we don't either.
Yeah, and we've talked about delaying our regular Sunday church message a week later, to maybe see stimulating people come back for a live in church,
Yeah.
So we've talked about that in our adult classes, just the Sunday night, just put it a week later.
Sure.
So they don't get
That's
it
good.
that day.
Yeah.
So maybe
Love
just
it.
stir them to come back. We've had great attendance, so,
Good. Good. Everett's our numbers guy. And we've seen that. Our kids Sunday school classes, right, Everett?
Yeah.
That's our lowest attended group.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
And I teach the home builders. Those are my parents. Those are my students that's struggling with that. And it doesn't matter. We can pull, push. It's not just happening. So anyway, that's some good stuff. Get them that engagement. That engagement's huge. Whatever that means. It doesn't always mean it has to be digitally. Digitally is just one of those things that it's a tool, isn't it?
Yeah.
Some of the things, and go ahead.
We started, another lady takes care of this, it was this for Sunday school, but they started a Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
And so the week before, she went and traveled to each house and dropped off a package that had
Wow.
their first lesson. And then she would each week send their parent through email their lesson that they could print off. And so she did different things, and then she usually, would pull in pictures from the internet and things like that as she
Yeah.
told the story and stuff. But she kept trying to send them things and stuff like this to keep them involved.
Yeah, good stuff. Now that was one thing, I'll get right to you, Terry, that once we started, we didn't have Sunday school. The kids were in the service.
Yeah.
And what Casey did would kind of tap in with Pastor there, and they had a sheet to fill out. And they had the candy table out in the foyer, send them there. If they filled it out, that means they are engaged. They're being a part of the service. Go ahead, Terry.
My son is a children youth pastor in Mississippi,
Mhm.
and he does the online thing too, but he does cliffhangers.
Okay.
And those kids eat him up. And they had 56 Wednesday night. And he said they're just, and he reminds them, don't forget to come back.
Yeah.
Because this Sunday we're meeting.
Good.
And we're gonna find out the end of the story. I mean, he reminds them,
Yeah.
you know, but he always ends in cliffhangers.
Wow. Our Mind and Simplicity. That's why we watch those. That's why we binge watch on Netflix, isn't it? Didn't have to wait like years ago, like Dallas, Who Shot JR. I remember that when I was a kid. Who shot JR? They held on to you till the fall, right? Anything else? I don't want to forget. Don't want to leave anybody. That engagement, so we drew it from the idea from online then to in service. Remember, the object is the return. We want people, and obviously with our kids. Here are some things that we learned. The live videos were huge. You saw some of those. That's grainy. The very first one was probably the biggest one. Casey had also addressed the fear. Remember, he said, I love you, I miss you, and brought comfort with that. But those videos were the biggest hitters. Forget using a nice camera, high quality, catchy titles. He'd have special announcement real big and coming at 3 o'clock, whatever time that he had. Interactive elements, as Mrs. Yeoman has just said. That interactiveness, it doesn't matter if it's digitally, if you're able to, what you're able to do in the small in-person element there as well, but those interactive elements. Be accepting of help.
Yes.
I made sure, because Casey's wife Liza was probably that's probably where a lot of it come from. But to have her a part of that, their kids were involved in these things. There might be a volunteer, a staff member that might be able to help along with that. The shorter, the better. 5-minute lessons. Steve Harney, most of you know, is a genius when it comes to that. And I know it doesn't seem that way because he's always goofy acting. We see him at camp. We've had him in our churches doing our children's programs. But every 5 minutes, he gives the attention getter. That's why he yells real big or whatever, or move to a magic trip, or all of those resources of guys like Steve they know where that's at, and many of you have tapped in to him as well, and some other resources like that. I've got over here some printouts. They're just resources, articles, different things, different ideas. I pulled maybe a couple of them when I was looking, but Outreach Magazine is where some of those are at. You're welcome to those. There's those 3 stacks there. Those Barna statistics, there's more, but I was just obviously interested in our student ministries in preparation for this. So those are that's with our children's ministry. Aaron next door is our youth pastor, and it's going to act up here on me, so be patient. But during COVID, I'm going to give you the steps from the teenagers, from their perspective. He did a Zoom every Wednesday, and to stay connected, 6 o'clock, and then led right into our pastor's Bible study for Wednesday evening. He did a weekly Instagram challenge. That's their way of connecting. That's the teenagers' way. Some of these, whether it's Instagram, Snapchat, whatever it might be. There was he's got on here, a weekly daily connection. Think about that, weekly daily connection. But Casey and Aaron, every one of our staff members did a daily connection each day of the week, and they had their designated one so that the teens could be, I think that his was Tuesday or Thursday, whatever that was. But they knew that daily connection, that devotion was geared kind of towards them. So in those moments, yes.
So it's like a little devotional thing?
It's a devotional that we had done just by ourselves, one of my pastors here, and we had followed actually a devotional booklet. So our Daily Bread is one of those that you can do so the adults could watch as well, because we wanted to engage them as well. They don't always get the opportunity to hear a Casey or an Aaron as well. So those were just things that we had done just to keep our church people connected. And we tried to include those young ones on that. One of the biggest, I had some toys, the retro toys, G.I. Joe, Star Wars, and all that. That was a good interaction. You know, even with the adults, it was nostalgic. But with those kids, they've got that interaction as well. So that's what we had found. Some days were bigger than others, but they could watch it whenever. And that was usually at 2 o'clock every day.
Okay.
So, and so like I said, that weekly daily connection, he made sure that he had his with our teens. the regathering, which is, we're all probably in this portion here together right now. We had a blitz rally. We did not send our students to camp this year. We just had some concerns, some reservations. So what Aaron had done was planned a blitz rally, and it was an all-day for our kids. There was about 125 kids that had attended. Several of those were salvations, from volleyball teams to you name it. They had their open gyms and stuff going on. They come to that thing, so have a reason to gather. Get them, have that celebration to be back together. Sunday school, we had split, which the junior high and the girls, we was able to space them, give them their own places. And then the Wednesday night split, we did more of a guys and girls curriculum. And so those types of studies, again, so we can maneuver and keep them, get that social distancing, one of those phrases that we've not become very thrilled with. And then, as we get to the full release, which we kind of are kept on the edge of our seats, right? I heard on the radio that here in Ohio, Mike DeWine is ready to open up the restaurants completely. And then that night before, our president comes down with COVID-19. So many of us are on that. Most of us, I would say, would it be fair to say that 90% of our ministries are probably opened up? That we keep adding and adding. I know Pastor Lamb, we've kept in contact and had conversations. He said, where they're at, where we're at. I know all of us are having those conversations among churches, kind of seeing. But so once we get that full, he's still got plans of a big blowout and celebration. Plan a big event. So to celebrate being back together. Remember, the return is the big idea. And then reaching out to those absentees. Those that you know have been missing. Mom and dad still has fearful, things going on there. Set them at ease. And so reach out to them. And the goal with these avenues is to keep the students engaged. That is the most valuable. I believe the valuable lessons that youth pastors have learned is that when your students are sitting in front of you, we've prepared this 15-minute lesson, right? Or 30-minute Sunday school lesson, or whatever it might be, and we're thinking, this is the home run hitter. And they smile, they laugh, they play their games and whatever. But I think one thing that we had found with the teenagers, and this is, Aaron can attest to this as well, that they are very comfortable in front of that screen. They are very comfortable in their bedroom. And the eye rolls was a lot more fluid in those moments, in those Zoom meetings. If you're paying attention, and this is for the teens more so than probably the kids, then they are more than likely going to tell you a lot in that. I just got that 5-minute warning. Might have been 4. I don't know. 4. And they are not as engaged as you think they are. So if they're having trouble sitting right in front of you for that hour of Sunday school that you have them, how do you think they're really engaged online? That's why the return is so much more important. We also know the need for relationships, right? Church is about relationships. It's our church family. Not forsaking of the assembling, right? So getting back together. We were created, Genesis 1:27 tells us that, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female. Relationships. We're made for relationships, not through a screen. But that is a tool that we can use. We've all felt pain in the last 7 months. Our kids have felt pain. I have a 15-year-old, almost 16-year-old, that is a busybody. And it pains her, out of all 3 of my children, for her to sit idly. Idle time is dangerous for her. I love her like she's my own daughter, okay? But idle time is not good. So she's felt pain. From playing volleyball to basketball to softball, she's in one thing to the next, and her world come to a complete halt. Our worlds, in many ways, have come to a complete halt. Ministry does not come to a complete halt. But one of the things that we learn, that pain is the lever that God uses to change us. Remember, I said we go back to a default setting. We got to be careful of that, not to get complacent, because I think that there's been a bar that's been set, because we've got to increase our efforts, whatever that is. If it's going to someone's house for an Easter egg hunt and doing these things, if it's to online, whatever it might be. But we got to step up our game, I feel, because we get complacent and we go through our days, don't we? We lose that burden a little bit. Jesus did not cause the pain. When I talk with people in counseling, whether it's students or adults, that I try to get them to understand that Jesus did not cause your pain, but he will not waste your pain. So in this time, that's that lever that's been flipped. So make sure that this pain is being used appropriately. And then last is the objective. 2 Timothy 2:16 tells us that we need to have it says, but shun profane and vain babblings, for they will increase unto more ungodliness. Don't just be online to have a presence just because the neighboring church is. Don't do it for any reason. Remember, we can get lost in it. And as Casey had stressed a little bit, we can become overwhelmed in many cases as well. So make sure that it's for a purpose. I tried to show some of those different elements. There at the end, he still delivered the gospel. And then he said, he's pointing to those puppets, and he points right at the camera. And you have a need of a Savior. So as we got to find that balance through all of this, and much prayer and preparation, we can't enter anything. We don't prep a Sunday school lesson. We don't prep whether we're preaching, whether you're teaching those little ones, if you're working in the nursery, whatever it is that we are doing, everything is by prayer and preparation. So make sure that we have the right balance, return, and objective. That's the bruh, right? My kids say I'm a dork too, so you can say it within yourself, especially I'm feeling it over here. All right, thank you so much, and we'll go ahead and be dismissed, and stick around, and the Pastor Dixon is going to be on here in just a few minutes as our next one. Thank you so much for tolerating me.